Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into Webby.com podcast SEO Weekly episode 1.
Ooh, interesting pick.
Yeah, it caught my eye because, this episode dropped right as Google's March 2025 core update started to roll out.
Yeah, no wonder the SEO community is buzzing like crazy right now.
Seriously, the Reddit threads are a wild mix of celebrations, panic, and some seriously insightful discussions.
It is quite the roller coaster ride over there.
Right. Some folks are reporting huge traffic spikes. Others are like, SEO is dead again.
That never gets old, does it? The SEO is dead pronouncements.
Never. But amidst all that noise, there are some real gems of advice being shared. So that's what we're going to dig into today.
Sounds good to me. Where should we start?
Okay, so one thing that popped up a lot was this whole idea of refreshing older content.
Yeah, I saw that too. Seems pretty basic, but with this update, it's like suddenly everyone's talking about it.
Right, like giving those older episodes a second chance to shine. I'm curious, though, why is that so important right now? Is it just because Google likes to see websites being active, or is there more to it?
Well, the experts on Reddit were saying it ties into your site's topical authority.
Topical authority. Okay.
Yeah, basically, the more you create high-quality content in a specific niche, the more Google sees you as an expert in that area.
So, if I mainly talk about podcasting and then I refresh an old episode about, let's say, podcast editing software, it could get a boost because Google now trusts me more on that topic.
Exactly. It's not just about looking busy. It's about proving your expertise.
Got it. So it's like strategic content revival.
You could say that. Now, another tactic that caught my eye was content pruning.
Content pruning.
Yeah, some people were talking about cleaning up their website's index, getting rid of, those dusty old pages that aren't doing so well.
So it's like spring cleaning for your website.
Precisely. You get rid of the clutter, help Google focus on the good stuff, avoid any confusion.
Okay, so it's not just about adding new content. It's also about trimming the fat, making sure everything's lean and mean.
I like that, trimming the fat. It's quality over quantity, as always.
It's funny. While everyone's busy obsessing over this March 2025 update, there's this whole other big player changing the game, artificial intelligence.
Oh, absolutely. AI is shaking things up in a major way.
And that's where things get really interesting, right?
Definitely. We've got Google trying to wrangle those AI hallucinations.
The AI hallucinations. Okay, before we go any further, what exactly are those and how is Google even fighting them?
Imagine AI in its eagerness to give you answers. It gets, a bit too creative.
Creative how?
It starts filling in the blanks with made-up information.
So it's confident but wrong.
Exactly. That's an AI hallucination.
Okay, that makes sense. But how is Google fighting that?
They're working on this idea of sufficient context. It's like teaching AI to recognize when it doesn't actually have enough info to give a good answer.
So instead of just spitting out some bogus fact, it'd be like, hold on, I need more details before I can answer that properly.
Precisely. And here's the thing. This aligns with all those SEO best practices we've known for years,
Like what?
Google's always emphasized creating comprehensive, well-structured content.
Right.
Now it's even more crucial because of AI search.
Okay, so for us podcasters, that means clear, concise information, adding transcripts for context, ditching the fluff. Does that, appease the AI overlords?
It's a fantastic start.
Yeah.
But AI is also throwing some curveballs our way. We're seeing a rise in these fake URLs generated by AI content tools.
I heard about that.
It's bizarre, right? They're trying to cite sources, but just making up web addresses that don't even exist.
Which explains all those 404 errors people have been talking about. So what's the fix? Do we, redirect those fake URLs to real pages?
Actually, John Mueller, he's a search advocate at Google. He suggests focusing on a user-friendly 404 page instead of redirecting.
So instead of hiding the problem, you kind of use it as a chance to educate people about AI hallucinations.
Yeah, exactly. Gently guide them to the right content on your site.
Smart. Now, Mueller also said something else that really stuck with me. He talked about, focusing on meaningful SEO metrics and creating really valuable content.
Yeah, instead of chasing those quick fixes or obsessing over tiny numbers that can be easily manipulated.
Right. It's like he's reminding us that SEO isn't about gaming the system. It's about connecting with real people. And that brings us to another point he made about, adapting SEO skills to what businesses actually need.
He's basically saying, hey, SEO pros, branch out, move beyond that traditional server-side SEO and start thinking about things like Client-side frameworks, AI integration, user experience, mobile performance.
Wow, it sounds like the SEO landscape is getting a whole lot more complex.
It's evolving, for sure. You need those technical skills, creative thinking, a deep understanding of how people interact with content. It's not just one thing anymore.
I gotta say, as podcasters, we're already pretty good at creating engaging content. Like, that's kind of our thing. So maybe we're actually in a good position to embrace this shift.
I think you're right. Podcasts are all about connecting with people. And by optimizing for both search engines and our listeners, we can really boost our reach.
Speaking of reach, I came across some stats that just blew my mind. SparkToro did this research showing that despite all the AI hype, Google is still the king of search. Like, handling a staggering 373 times more searches than ChatGPT daily.
Yeah, I saw that too. Google's dominance isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And there was another study by LinkedIn. It found that B2B sales teams using AI are shortening their sales cycles by about a week. It just shows how AI is impacting way more than just SEO.
It's changing how businesses operate across the board.
Absolutely.
So what's the big takeaway for us podcasters? What should we be focusing on as we navigate this crazy world of SEO?
I think it boils down to this. Create amazing content that your audience will love. Don't get lost in chasing every algorithm change or trying to game the system. Stay informed, yeah, but remember, the core of it all is creating something valuable and engaging.
Okay, I like that. Keep it real, keep it relevant, and keep those listeners coming back for more. Got it. Now, you've been spending quite a bit of time on those Reddit discussions about this March 2025 update. What are some other actionable tips that stood out to you? Like, what can we actually do to prepare for this AI-powered future of podcasting?
Picking up on that adapting to change thing, one thing that stuck with me from that Webby.com podcast, SEO Weekly, episode 1, was John Mueller's point about how SEO pros really need to evolve, keep up with the times. It's not enough to just master those old school tactics anymore.
Yeah, true. It's like we need to become fluent in multiple languages,
Yeah.
The language of search engines, the language of AI, and the language of user experience.
Perfect analogy. And it's not just learning new technical skills. It's about understanding how people actually use the web. Like in this age of AI, we can't just chase keywords blindly.
Yeah.
We got to create experiences that really resonate.
It's less about manipulating algorithms and more about genuinely connecting with people.
Exactly. We need to anticipate what they're searching for, give them clear answers, make sure our content is accessible and enjoyable. And that brings us back to podcast transcripts. They're becoming essential.
It's like you always say, those transcripts are the bridge between the audio world of podcasts and the text-based world of search engines and AI assistants.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Transcripts give those systems the context they need, the keywords to understand and index your content. Plus, they make your podcast accessible to, a wider audience, people who prefer reading, people with hearing impairments.
So it's as much about inclusivity as it is about SEO.
For sure.
Now, remember those fake URLs generated by AI tools?
Oh, yeah. It's a strange problem, isn't it?
The robots are getting a little too eager to prove they've done their research.
Trying to show off their smarts, but ending up, creating broken links and frustrating 404 errors.
Right. And it's not just annoying. Those broken links can hurt your website's credibility, make for a bad experience.
Absolutely. So what do we do about it? Is it just a matter of, redirecting those fake URLs to real pages?
That's what I would think, but what does Google say?
Well, John Mueller, the search advocate we mentioned earlier, he's cautious about jumping into redirects right away. He suggests gathering some data first,
See how big of a problem it is before you start redirecting everything.
Right. Sometimes the best approach is just take a breath, collect info, make a data-driven decision.
Data-driven SEO, it always comes back to that. Sticking with John Mueller for a minute, he also talked about how SEO professionals need to adapt their skills to keep up with the changing web. Specifically, he mentioned shifting away from server-side work and focusing more on client-side frameworks, AI, user experience, and mobile performance.
It's a big shift. Emphasizes the need to broaden our skills. It's not just about keywords and backlinks anymore.
So we need to get more technical.
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah.
We need to understand the nuts and bolts of web development, the nuances of AI, the principles of good design, see the bigger picture.
And being able to communicate with developers and designers and, other people on the team is going to be super important.
Absolutely. Collaboration, clear communication, it's key. All this talk about adapting and evolving, it might sound daunting, but I think podcasters, we're actually in a pretty good position to thrive.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, podcasts are already inherently engaging and informative and personal. By focusing on quality content and optimizing it for, both search engines and humans, we can really extend our reach.
And speaking of reach, remember those mind-blowing stats we talked about? The research from SparkToro showing Google is still the champ?
You bet. Despite all the AI hype, Google's still handling a massive volume of queries, way more than any other platform.
Really underscores the importance of continuing to optimize for traditional search engines. But that doesn't mean we ignore AI altogether, right?
Of course not.
Yeah.
It's about understanding where your target audience is searching and, making sure your content is visible in those spaces. So while we keep an eye on things, it's important to not lose sight of the basic principles of good SEO.
So the core principles, like creating quality content, optimizing for relevant keywords, building those authoritative backlinks, those are still just as important.
Absolutely. They're the foundation. Now, before we move on, I wanted to touch on something that's creating a lot of buzz. Google's evolving approach to AI-generated content.
This is where things get a little tricky, right? It's like Google's embracing AI on one hand, but also trying to prevent it from manipulating search results or, spreading misinformation.
It's a balancing act, for sure. The takeaway from that Webby.com podcast SEO Weekly Episode 1 is that Google's priority is rewarding content that provides value to users, regardless of who or what created it.
So it's not about human versus AI, it's about the quality and the relevance and the usefulness of the information itself.
Exactly. As we explore the possibilities of AI in content creation, we need to keep that in mind. Use AI as a tool to boost your creativity and efficiency, not as a shortcut to game the system.
And remember, Google's algorithms are always changing, so what might be okay today might not be okay tomorrow. It's a moving target.
That's why it's so important to stay informed, experiment, be willing to adapt. But AI is just one piece of the puzzle,
Right. So don't get so caught up in the AI hype that you forget about all the other essentials of a successful SEO strategy.
Exactly. Building relationships, engaging with your audience, creating content that really resonates, that's never going to go out of style.
It's all about connecting with people. Now, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, what's one key thought you want to leave our listeners with?
The world of SEO is constantly changing, and AI is, speeding things up even more. But amidst all that complexity and uncertainty, one thing remains constant: the importance of creating high-quality, engaging, valuable content.
That's a great point to end on. By focusing on your audience and taking a data-driven approach, you can navigate all those choppy waters and achieve success.
Absolutely. Remember, stay curious, stay informed, and keep creating amazing content that your listeners will love. Until next time, happy podcasting.